Railroad Museum and our Missionary Ridge local. We're glad to have you with us today. We'll be talking to you on the way over about some historical points along our right-of-way. First and foremost, as we live at Grand Junction Station, you saw mainline traffic perhaps if you've been here long enough, up and behind the station and on the hill. And the direction of travel, that would be to your right. So to give you orientation, the station side would be your left as we make our way over to East Chattanooga. That main line was built in the early 1950s, allowing the railroads to completely bypass Missionary Ridge, no longer having to contend with using a single portal, allowing for only one lane of rail through Missionary Ridge. That Missionary Ridge Tunnel, known as Whiteside Tunnel, major stockholder in the East Tennessee and Georgia Railroad, the original railroad built and constructed in the late 1850s. Now down and below to the left, that appearing to be today driveway is the original 1850s railroad. The railroad would run along down and below to the left, putting it in the floodplain, however, which would be found out soon over time in 1867. Many times in this surrounding area, the Tennessee River and the Chickamauga Creek, before the levees were built and before TVA built the dam, the river and creek system would flood terribly. In this case, 9 feet underwater down and below to the left. The first thing the Southern Railway does around the 1920s is take the right-of-way, move it over to the right where we're located today, building up the height of the roadbed and the elevation, taking it out of the floodplain. As we cross over South Chickamauga Creek down into your left, you'll see the second bridge piers that were constructed and installed. The first were like a stone ornate type of structure, very stone arch ornate, very nice to look at, perhaps not as stable as they would like. Those were stabilized over time and they would be replaced by the ones you see today. On your right of the train, you'll see rail ties laid out, and you'll just imagine just enough width you see and slope, you can imagine the railroad running along that area. So when I talked about it being on the left and then the right, both of those are correct. You can see those changes made, the modifications by the Southern Railway once they come in and take over operation of this line based upon the old right-of-way. We're about to cross over the Western Atlantic Railroad, ladies and gentlemen. And ladies and gentlemen, crossing over the old WNA, the Western Atlantic Railroad, that major railroad connecting Atlanta eventually to Chattanooga. Ladies and gentlemen, we would all ask for your cooperation with our current pandemic situation and, of course, mandated to be able to continue to operate. We would ask that you keep your face coverings on at least while on board. If you are spread out, just be mindful of the distance that you keep. Again, we want to be able to continue operations. Now, when you get off the train, you're a good distance from each other. If it gets a little warm today, obviously that might not be as stressed as we are on the train as far as stressing that point, but we do appreciate your cooperation. And if you would please also, with that in mind, please return to your seat, the same seat that you were boarded on your coach, and the seat you were sitting in on your way over. We please ask you to return to that seat. Ladies and gentlemen, again, we're glad to have you with us. Let's talk about our passenger cars we have on our train today, our consist. If you're riding in car 906, where I'm speaking through the interconsistor right now, you're riding in a coach that was originally numbered 528 when it was built for the Central of Georgia, later acquired by the Southern Railway and renumbered in their numbering system to 906. It's a heavyweight coach built in 1924 by the Pullman Company. If you're riding in that stainless car, that Richmond, Fredericksburg, and Potomac car 857, you're riding in a 1947 coach that was manufactured by the Bug Company. The oldest coach we have on the train today, 1037, that green car in the Southern Railway lettering, built in 1911, originally as a sleeper, and then reconfigured later in its history as a standard coach. Car 1000, originally 1653, numbered by the Southern Railway. As it maintains its career with the Southern Railway, it was renumbered eventually to Car 1000. And of course, it's hard to leave out our steam locomotive and the history behind it, Locomotive 4501. I'm going to talk about that locomotive once we do in fact arrive at East Chattanooga. We're going to allow everyone to get off the train, exit by car. We'll call out your car number and we'll allow you to exit at that point. You can make your way all the way down past the locomotive, down to the roped off into the property, that turntable area. If you'd like to go down, we ask that you keep your feet behind the marked yellow line, please, and that's for your safety.
62.
We'll uncover the locomotive, take it down, stop it just shy, bringing it onto the table, and at that point in time, we will demonstrate the turntable for you at that time and talk to you specifically about the steam locomotive and its history. Just to give you a preview, ladies and gentlemen, you will be viewing a 1911 steam locomotive, a 282 Mikado class of locomotive. All right, ladies and gentlemen, imagine this area being double tracked when Southern Railway double tracks the rail here, and again, you're still having to contend with the single portal tunnel allowing for one lane of rail through Missionary Ridge, so sidings were built on both ends of the ridge to allow for trains to pull off from the sidings so the others could pass from the other side. VM Tower with two-story structure was constructed on each Chattanooga portal side, controlling the operations in and out of the ridge. Ladies and gentlemen, you'll be listening for the whistle of our steam locomotive, 4501, and when you hear that, that signals our approach to Missionary Ridge and YSI Tunnel. Ladies and gentlemen, before we get there, the tunnel was constructed and completed in 1859. About 2 years prior, they began that construction project. The tunnel is 986 feet long, right around 3 football fields in length, mostly dug by hand because dynamite was not available then. Dynamite was not invented until 1867. Your alternative would be black powder explosive. A few years after the construction, to give you an example of how important it was to keep that powder dry, the soldiers in the Union and Confederate armies, in fact, fighting right above the tunnel here in the Battle of Chattanooga, the Missionary Ridge Battle, the 25th of November, 1863. Keep your powder dry, very damp conditions in the tunnel. Ladies and gentlemen, Whiteside Tunnel.
And here we are, folks, tunnel time.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, exiting Missionary Ridge via YSI Tunnel on the East Chattanooga side at this time. Look over to your right, you'll see the leftover foundation from the VM Tower. Back at our gift shop, you'll see a book known as Railroads of Chattanooga, and you can see that structure, gentlemen standing in the foreground and in the background, the East Chattanooga portal of YSI Tunnel. Ladies and gentlemen, again, we'll be arriving here in a few moments. We are unable to do our back shop tours during our Missionary Ridge local at this time due to restrictions state and county mandated. However, we will definitely answer any questions you may have about the equipment you can see from the train, and of course, as you walk back and forth from the turntable. We'd certainly love to talk to you about the history here, and we do apologize and appreciate your patience during this time. I will say this though, even though there's a lot of changes and some things have been trimmed from our tour, we are certainly glad to be in operation. I was told the other day about 1/3 of all museums in the United States will never open their doors again, and we are extremely fortunate to be able to survive the way we have and be able to operate for the public and continue this history. So we're glad to have you with us this afternoon. As we come into our yard here at East Chattanooga in a few moments, you'll notice to the left several items in our fleet. You'll see an ex-Southern Railway office car. You will see a Louisville-Nashville dining car built in 1930 for that railroad. You may even get a glimpse of our other operational steam locomotive, 630, built in 1904 by the American Locomotive Company and its Richmond Works. And a few of the other locomotives we have here in our fleet used from time to time. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll talk to you in just a few moments. I'll give you the order. Coaches will be exiting on the ramp. Please take your time. Watch your step down the stairs after you cross over the bridgeway. Restrooms are located here at the East Chattanooga Depot, so if any point in time during our layover, those are available.
Yes, Swift. G-O-N-E.
Rivet is out.
You hear me? Okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, first car that will be exiting at the ramp, you'll be heading back towards the back of the train, is Coach Green, the Green Coach. So you'll get ready for as soon as we come to a complete stop, and we'll go ahead and have you set up an exit to the back. You notice the Cross Keys Tavern, I was talking about that Louisville-Nashville dining car. We acquired that from Indiana. The Indiana Railroad Museum was actually evicted from their property in Noblesville, Indiana, putting up for sale a lot of their equipment, scrapping others. We were able to acquire that, purchasing that dining car. There was no mainline access outside of that Railroad Museum, so we literally had to ship that back to Chattanooga via flatbed down the interstate.